I have my Xbox controller here and it's synced up. So when I move the joystick, it's going to move this green icon that shows you where the position of the joystick is. And I also have TrackMania open. So it's going to show exactly what steering percentage we get in game. And I'll use this setup to explain what are controller sensitivity curves. So we have it set to the default curve, and you can see it goes from 0 to 100% steering. So the bottom left of this graph indicates 0% steering, and the top right is 100%. So the x-axis is where your joystick is, like how far you've moved it to the side, and the y-axis is going to be what steering percentage you get in game. So a good way to understand this is when we look at action keys. So let's say I'm steering 100% and I enable an action key. That will limit my steering to 60%. And my joystick will actually go from 0 to 60%. And then once it moves past 60%, it just gets stuck there. So it's kind of like this big red line landed on our sensitivity graph, and anything above that red line is ignored. So it's actually only giving us 60% of the range of motion of the joystick, but it does let us limit our steering from 0 to 60%. So the software I'm using here, if I just like quit out of it for a second, it's called the Xbox Accessories app. And this is official configuration software that comes with the Xbox Elite 2 controller. And one of the interesting things you can do with this is set custom sensitivity curves so you have other options for it. So just to look into how this works, I picked the delayed sensitivity curve, and let's move it all the way to the right. So we're going to have a flat line here. So I have to quit out to save it and go back to edit, go back to the right stick. So now when I move my right stick, you'll see that it has a light green icon that shows what steering percentage we get, and this dark green icon that actually shows where my joystick is. So you can see I'm moving my joystick, but the right steering is still locked at 30%. So this 30% steering is this flat line on the graph. And you're probably thinking, well, it's cheating. You can't set your steering to a specific custom value. You can only use action keys to lock your steering. And I think that's pretty clear in the rules, but there is a slight gray area around this, which we'll explain using some third-party software. This software is called rulebook, and I think I paid $7 for the advanced mapping license. And just to show you how powerful this gets, if we go to the custom sensitivity curve, we can kind of adjust our sensitivity curve to basically look like whatever we want. So I'll just do a quick example where we're basically going to put 2 notches into our controller like this, and we'll just click apply to slot 2. So now you can see that the first notch, I guess, was at 32% steering, and the second notch is at 63%. So it becomes really easy to hold these steering percentages, which obviously is cheating. So the gray area here is that if you just slightly move this up, and I just slightly move this one up and apply it, we're still going to have those notches, but we're not holding an exact steering value because this one could go from 34 to 35%, and the second notch is going to go from kind of 63, 65%, kind of in that range. Okay, so let's say that's too precise and you would still consider that cheating. We can move this up some more, and basically there's some point where the curve kind of is big enough where it's not completely trivial. And I think part of the issue is that Nadeo would never catch people doing this because it's an analog input and it's still variable. You're not holding an exact value. So hopefully all this makes sense. Let me know in the comments what you think Nadeo should do about this. And thanks, Wirtual, for bringing this up to the community.